everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. I have truly enjoyed being a guest designer on the Coffee Loving Card Makers blog this month. For my final card, I have an adorable little caffeinated chameleon. In this video, I'm going to share how this card came together and show you how I use Distress Oxide sprays to add some color to this design. To create this card, I'm going to keep it super simple today. The only cardstock color I will be using is white. I will be creating my stencil background and this cute chameleon character on the white cardstock. I will be shading the chameleon with some alcohol markers, but that's going to go really quick. I'm also going to share how to create a fun leaf accent and a background for your card using the Distress Oxide sprays. I'm going to start with the messiest part of the project, the texture paste background and the Distress Oxide pieces. These elements are going to need some time to dry, so I want to work on these first. For the brick background, I'm going to mix some opaque texture paste with a drop of Weathered Wood Distress Oxide spray. I'm not going to mix this color in completely because I still want some white within that brick. I have secured my stencil in place using a couple of magnets, and I'm going to be using a plastic spatula to apply the texture paste over the stencil. I'm not going to completely fill in the background. I like the look of broken brick along the edges and how it creates a bit of a distressed look to the background. Once all of the texture paste has been added, I can peel up the stencil and see how cool that brick color is. I love that blue-gray tint, and it's going to go well with some of the other elements I'm adding to the card. The leaves and the background panel are going to be a little messier to create. I'm going to use a variety of green Distress Oxide sprays for these. If these sprays are new to you, I have a few tips to get you started. Just like most sprays, you will need to shake them and make sure that all the ink is mixed well. There should be no white residue in the bottom of the bottle. You should also cover your work surface or use a splat box because the sprays will get onto the items around you. I have placed my leaves onto my glass board and I've placed a shield around my work area to lessen the mess. I'm going to spray one set of leaves darker than the other. These two leaves are going to be layered on top of each other on the card front, and I want to have a variation in the colors. As the colors mix, the opaque inks are going to blend and create some layers of color. When these dry, they will be soft and muted like Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to set the leaves aside and bring in my card base. Instead of spraying this, I'm just going to press the paper into the mix of colors here on my glass board. I'm going to press the paper into the sprays, then lift it and move it to another location. I'm going to rotate the paper and press it down again so that I get a nice mix and swirl of color. I'm going to keep checking it to see where I need to add more color onto the paper. If you want to add more layers of color, you can spray some color on this or add some splatters. But since this is only going to show around the edge, I'm going to leave it as is. Now I'm going to clean up my glass board, and while these dry, I'm going to shade my little caffeinated chameleon. This chameleon is going to be shaded with tri-blend markers. I have chosen some blue shades so that it stands out against the green leaves I created. I'm starting with blue turquoise blends, and then I'll add some blue turquoise shades. Now I am going to skip a few parts today and speed this up. I have shown various tutorials on my channel with tri-blends, and I don't want to bore you with all of the coloring. I will be posting a live video in my private Facebook group and show how the colors on this chameleon came together, and I'll give a few more tips for using these markers. After adding some shadows and highlights with the turquoise blue blends, I brought in the turquoise blue shades, which are a little bit darker, and I created some shadows on the chameleon. After adding those shadows, I'm going to blend all of the colors, adding some light and some dark and some mid-tones until I get the highlights and shadows I'm looking for. For the tail and the stomach, I'm going to bring in some greens. I'm starting with green turquoise and adding some lighter hues. I'm also using this to create a few shadows, but I'm not going to go all the way to the edge. Most lizards, especially chameleons, have a variation of color. And even though this is a cartoon, I want to bring in some of that variegation. Around the sides of the stomach, on the tail, the legs, the top of the head, and in the center of the eyelids, I'm going to add a layer of alpine green. These hues are very green and bring in some more color layers to the image. These greens also match the leaves we created with the Distress Oxide sprays, and adding the green to the chameleon is going to give a nice cohesive look to the card. I just need to take some of those blue turquoise and green turquoise markers and blend some of my colors together. Now, at this point, I shut off the camera to go get some more coffee and forgot to turn it back on. While off camera, I shaded the coffee cup with some ice gray and I added some white dots to the tail and the head with a gel pen. Now I'm going to use the metal die to cut this out and we'll start assembling our card. Here I have everything we created for this card. I have a card base, the Distress Oxide spray background, the brick panel, those beautiful leaves, the adorable caffeinated chameleon, and a sentiment I heat embossed on some blue-gray cardstock. As I'm putting this together, I want to let you know that green is a color I rarely use. My friend Jama loves bright green colors, but I usually stick to muted hues or blues. This year, I've been working on stepping outside my comfort zone. And boy, have I been doing that. A few weeks ago, I created a card with panels that were tilted and threw my OCD for a loop, and now I'm using green. It's always fun to try something new, and I hope this inspires you to do the same. Now, you probably noticed that those leaves did tear. I dropped them onto my desk, and the foam tape stuck. I couldn't get them up without tearing them because this is a really delicate die cut. I was able to hide this on the card, but I wanted to let you know that these types of things happen to everybody. I have placed the chameleon onto the card with some foam tape. I wanted it to go off the edge a little bit and leave enough room for my sentiment. I cut an angle on one end of the sentiment strip, and then I'm going to tuck the other end under the caffeinated creature. The last set of elements I want to add are green dots that match the other elements on the card. And now this sweet little coffee card is done. I love how all these elements came together to make this adorable caffeinated chameleon. If you think this is cute, you should check out the other caffeinated critters on the website. They are so adorable. I'll put a link to that site in the description below. I know you didn't expect a caffeinated chameleon for today's coffee-loving card maker blog post, but it was just too cute not to make. I don't know about you, but that's pretty much how I look every morning before I've had a few cups of coffee. If you enjoy pinning images on inspiration boards, I will be posting photos of this card on my website later today, and you can grab those still shots to save for later. I hope that this project inspired all of my coffee-loving card maker friends, especially those who love little caffeinated critters. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies I've listed below, feel free to post those in the comments below. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.